Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you want in the body and mind you want. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of freedom with food and your body, you're in the right place. Just a reminder that this podcast represents my own opinions. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult your doctor or healthcare professional for any individual medical questions you may have. Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here today and sharing this space with me. Today, we're getting maybe a little more practical than usual, and we're going to talk about real life weight loss plans and how realistic plans are what will actually help you lose weight and keep it off for good. One of the things that I offer my clients when they sign up to work with me online is a weekly or a monthly plan. Now, back in the day, many years ago, I used to give my clients actual food plans to follow. But that is when I learned pretty quickly, within a year or two, that yes, my food plans absolutely worked for my clients at first, but it would never last. My clients would lose the weight initially, but eventually they came back to me having put the weight back on, sometimes even more than what they started with. And I really felt, for me personally, that I wasn't doing my job. You know, I was really, and still am, very passionate about teaching people to make behavior changes and get to any of the goals that they really have in life. So when I was working with these clients years and years ago to lose weight, giving them these plans, it would work for a while, and then they'd end up coming back to me because they would have gained weight back. You know, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It wasn't even, I felt like I was failing, basically. So, you know, I created a new program quite a few years ago now to really focus on using the things I know about behavior change and emotional work, emotional eating, CBT and ACT and internal family systems theories that I use in my mental health therapy practice to really use some of those to incorporate in working with my weight loss clients to be able to lose the weight, with the goal being to keep it off for good, and that real food freedom, that body freedom, and really building those healthy relationships with their selves. And one of the ways I started doing that was through using very realistic plans, either weekly or monthly, for my clients. Just a quick interruption here to tell you about a new product I've been using. I recently was sent a couple of products from the Amino Co., the Amino Company. It's abbreviated Amino Co. This company specializes in a few different formulas that are centered around amino acid supplementation. I did a pretty deep dive into the company as well as the research behind their formulas, which is based on some initial research done by NASA. And beyond that, they used many clinical research studies to create their formulations. And amino acids are what build our proteins that make up our tissues and our bodies, as well as they are involved in almost every cellular process within our bodies. I really got into learning about amino acids years ago because they are such a huge part of muscle growth and maintenance. And you all know how big I am on building and maintaining muscle for longevity and staying active and healthy as we age. Most of you also know I'm a huge proponent of protein. And if you are a client of mine, a weight loss client of mine, you are well versed in me harping on you about working to get more protein into your diet on a daily basis. And this is one of the keys that can help you lose weight and keep it off. So protein, which is made up of amino acids, is really, really important. The other issue with amino acids is that we cannot produce all of them in the body that we need. We need to get some of them, and these are called essential amino acids, through our food or supplementation. So if we don't consume these essential amino acids on a regular basis, our bodies lose the ability to create and also maintain muscle mass as well as bone density. And it's really important for both these things as we age. My favorite product of theirs that I tried was the Life supplement. This one is really for those of us who are mostly focused on maintaining as well as still building muscle as we age. In clinical trials, this one showed that it enhanced physical function and muscle strength and supported heart health. I also just really like knowing that along with staying focused on getting in my dietary protein amount, I am also supplementing with the essential amino acids that I want daily for my long-term goals of strength, muscle maintenance, and staying healthy as I age. So since I decided I trusted this product and felt the benefits of this product, and because you are a listener of this podcast, you can try their products for 30% off, which, by the way, is a really big discount amount. You can use my referral link, which is aminoco.com/HH30. Again, that is AMINOCO.com/H, the number 3, the number 0. So go to aminoco.com/HH30, choose your product or products, and at checkout, you can use the discount code, again, HH30, capital H, capital H30, for 30% off your entire order. When I talk about real life food plans or realistic food plans or real life plans or realistic plans, I'm really just talking about how we really need to start meeting ourselves where we're at with honesty in a way to create the plan for the week or the month that we're going to try to follow, but that is absolutely realistic based on where we are currently at in our lives. So that's going to be really different for each one of us. But the point is the plan, the what you're going to follow, what you're going to do to try to lose this weight absolutely has to be realistic, which means you need to get super, super honest with yourself. But the beautiful part about this is when the plan is realistic, that is when the weight starts coming off. You actually enjoy the process, which is key in order to lose the weight for good and keep it off. So just to give you sort of an idea, some of the plans that I do for my clients, many of them absolutely have things like how many calories we're shooting for each day. For some of my clients, I definitely focus on macros and having them follow macronutrient portions to really help them drop weight a little bit quicker. Or if they're, I work with some clients who, are looking to gain lean body mass, drop body fat. So if we're looking at different ways of body composition, then we are definitely going to look at macros. Some of the plans talk about how many steps a day we're shooting for or what types of exercise. So for some clients who actually do really well with and have a desire to learn some of these things and experiment and want to follow a little bit more of a structure, because there are personalities like that do a lot better with structure. And sometimes it's not even personalities. It's different times in our lives when maybe we do a little bit better with structure, all of those things. And so for those people, and, I figure this out through a big assessment that I do with them to see kind of where they're at, I do include those sorts of things like calorie goals or macros or both, things like that. And I have a lot of experience in doing that. Used to be personal trainer at a gym. I'm also just been a diet, connoisseur for the last, 30 years. But I've learned, and that has not been a good thing, but I've learned so much through that. And I'm kind of a geek about this stuff. So I do feel I have some expertise in being able to use those things. And I've just over the years really honed my skills and knowledge on how to manipulate things like macros and calories and things that just help people get to the body composition or weight they want to be at. So for some people, for some clients, I do incorporate some of those things. But for other people, on the other hand, and this is actually the majority of my clients, there are some people who just absolutely do not want to track. That, they may be just personalities that just cannot stand that structure. It almost makes it worse. It often, if you try to set them up with structures like counting calories or macros or things like that, it really sets them up to rebel and overeat, and definitely not something I want to do to those clients, because if I'm asking to do that and they hate it, it is not going to work for those clients in the long run. So those plans for clients like that are going to be a bit different. We work on more things like the hunger scale and how to tell when your body's had enough, how to be more mindful, how to sit with feelings of wanting to keep eating when you know you've had enough, all those sort of things that you kind of listen to on the podcast. You've probably heard me talk about. So the plans for people like that are very much more, they're still structured, but it's with different sort of behavioral tactics, thought work tactics, which by the way are still included in the plans for people with macros and calories and all that sort of thing. But, the focus for different personalities, for people at different times in their life is very, very different. And this is part of, when I'm talking to you about how do you create your own realistic plan, it's really that assessment piece that I do for my clients, but that you can do for yourself. You really have to ask very detailed questions about where are you at right now in life? What is your personality like? What's your experience with dieting in the past? What have you hated? What have you loved? And then really from the answers to those, from that assessment or from the questions that you're asking yourself, really then working on a very doable, honest, realistic plan. The one thing I do include in everyone's plan are writing prompts, and that thought work practice, very practical behavioral strategies and mindfulness strategies that I always have all my clients building a practice to get in daily. And these are always things that are made very, very doable and that the client agrees they can do, but that stretches them a little bit each day. And I cannot... I'm sure if you've been listening to this podcast, you know this. I cannot stress enough the importance of that thought work, that journal work, that writing work in order to lose the weight for good and keep it off. I did actually recently, I had a client, she's listening, she's going to know this is her, who I worked with for a few months, who in the beginning of working together just absolutely did not want to track calories or macros or anything like that, which it, like I said, absolutely fine. And so we started off with some strategies that I use with clients like these where, like I said, we're learning about fullness cues and hunger cues, and we're working on writing prompts and thought work strategies and different ways to think about the process she was going through in order to not have that rebellion of overeating, in order not to self-sabotage. We were doing a lot of work and written work back and forth through email in regards to, help her kind of shift and pivot different thoughts so that she was creating different feelings throughout this process, more feelings of willingness, less feelings of defeat, which almost always then leads to overeating and, again, that self-sabotage. So we worked a lot on the emotional eating stuff, and through that, she was able to lose about 15 pounds. And just recently, she said, I think I'm ready to start tracking calories, because she had never really done that before and was just feeling she was in a space where she was willing to do that and really had this very healthy mindset around it. And, she really started seeing it as a way to experiment because it's just something she didn't know. She really had no idea how many calories her body needed at this point in life. And so we decided that, she was kind of gung-ho, and she's like, I'm going to just start doing this. I'm going to start, so we really took it down a notch to create it, to make it more realistic. And so we agreed that we were going to do 1 week, 7 days of tracking calories to see what happened to her body. And so that we could experiment with those calories. We would then have the information, we would have the macronutrients, and just sort of did it as an experiment to learn new things about how her body used food. So she really moved into this new space of willingness. And so I created a plan for her where she had a specific number of calories to hit. She also had a specific number of protein macros, protein grams she was going to work to meet each day. And we really focused on that, just doing it for a week. So we worked on the mindset around that this is just for a week. It's just an experiment, but we get to learn all this awesome information from it. And that first week was so successful. She was so excited. And she's like, she said she just really enjoyed the freedom that came from having those guidelines, which for many of us is like, what? If we're tracking calories or macros, how can that feel freeing? But when your mindset is in a space of willingness and it's like, I'm excited to learn about this, and it's not all about, I need to, follow these numbers, and if I go over, it's a bad thing, or, anything like that. It's really understanding you're coming from a mind space where this is just an experiment. We're just willing, we're open. And that's where she found a lot of freedom in actually having the guidelines. It's a lot of Jocko Willink, if you know who he is, past Navy SEAL. I just think he's awesome. But, it's his quote that discipline equals freedom. Anyway, just an example of how I'm not saying that happens every time. I have many clients who never track anything and they do awesome. But for some people, that's just how it can shift and change when we work on different mindsets. Oh, and by the way, so after that first week, she had dropped 2 pounds. And so she was, by then, of course, super psyched. And so we decided to do it for 1 more week. And we actually sort of manipulated calories in a little different way. She had found that she really likes to eat more, drink more on the weekends. And so I taught her how she could use her specific number of calories, shave some calories off during the week. So we had a different daily, Monday through Friday, calorie allowance. And so that she could have extra on the weekend. And she just thought that was awesome. And so for her, that was a really great way to be able to live the way she wanted to live. That was part of her lifestyle. She likes to eat more, drink more on the weekends. And she was fine with having a few less calories during the week each day. Anyway, those are just some of the tips and tricks on how you can really get specific and make the plan realistic for you and where you're at. And it is so important to be following a plan when you want permanent weight loss, and especially if you have dealt with yo-yo dieting, where you've tried every single diet, maybe you've lost weight, gaining it back, or maybe even gaining back more. Maybe you're the person who, unless you're losing weight or gaining weight, you can never find that maintenance space. You can never just relax and keep the weight steady. It's really important to learn and then follow a plan that is doable and still stretches you a tiny, tiny bit that fits your personality, that fits your current lifestyle, as well as gives you some structure, something to follow, something to check off so that you can feel accomplished, so that you can start to build confidence and a sense of integrity with yourself. So when you're thinking about permanent long-term weight loss and you want to start following a plan, I would really encourage you to make a plan that is so doable, but that you do actually make a plan. Going at this without a plan, you might be able to do it in your head with kind of what you need to do for a few days, but without some structure, and this goes for any goal that we have, without some structure, it can be really, really difficult to keep going, to be able to assess your successes and to be able to look at what's working and what's not working. Basically, this is like, if you don't have a plan, you don't have data. And in order to really keep the needle moving in the direction you want it to move, you need a plan so that you have data, so you can look back, you can reassess and make changes. If you really think about this and what normal weight loss plans do, they really set us up to fail. Most weight loss plans create this sort of black and white thinking, like I'm either on plan or I'm off plan. And remember what this dichotomous or black and white thinking does when it comes to permanent weight loss. It always leads to self-sabotage, to regaining the weight, to not being able to keep it off permanently. I just really believe we need this sort of weight loss revolution, where we're looking at permanent weight loss, not from these punitive detox or wicked low calorie, you need to be hungry all the time, you can't eat this food group, you can't have carbs, sort of plans, to ones that are actually going to work and work forever. And in order for that to happen, we really need to get clear. We need the thought work, we need the emotional work, we need those pieces. We really need to figure out how to think in different ways about our bodies, about food, about weight loss in order to get to that permanent weight loss space. We need new relationships with our body, new relationships with ourselves, new relationships with food. And in order to make that happen, we need to do some of the work, the thought work and the emotional work. Realistic plans are what work. And realistic plans mean you have to really get real with yourself, get honest with yourself. And again, I do this with my clients by having them fill out a really detailed assessment before we start working together so I can get a sense and help them figure out what's going to be realistic for them. So you need to get real with yourself, be super honest, really truthful about your relationship with food, about your relationship with your body. And it's through that realistic, honest truth that the best plans and structure that will work long-term can be formed. Really need that realistic, down-to-earth sort of thoughts and feelings to be able to move forward with behavior change. And this gets a little into what's inside of us and that awareness. So it's really important. It's really important to really get honest and be aware of what's going inside of us so we can really create these individual plans that will actually make us be willing to do what we need to do. We also will know what we need to do, what we're not willing to do, and just being very, very honest about that. And by the way, this is not about judging. This is not about saying, I'm not willing to get rid of all my cookies and that's a bad thing and I just suck at this. It's not about judging at all. It's just about being very, very realistic and honest. Really, that's not a bad thing to know that you don't want to get rid of your cookies. That's actually a really, really good thing because that is that knowledge, that's understanding that being realistic and honest is what's going to be able to help you create a plan where you really can start to lose weight and be able to keep it off for good. Because knowing that is the space that you're in, we can create a plan that gets to incorporate those cookies where you can still lose weight. But if someone is saying, oh yeah, I can give up all my cookies, and I'm just going to I'm going to give up all the carbs or whatever it is without doing that real, honest, realistic thinking around it about, really where you're at. So yeah, sure, I'm absolutely willing to give up all my cookies. So this plan gets created with absolutely no cookies. And then y'all know what happens here. All that restriction and deprivation will come in and the overeating will come in and there will be rebellious eating and there will be emotional eating. The self-sabotage absolutely will come back. The weight will be regained. And now we've just lost a whole chunk of time where if we had been honest and realistic about, yeah, I really want cookies included in my plan. I want to eat cookies. And there's a way to create weight loss even with that. So, if we had created a plan like that from the beginning, that time would not have been lost. It just would have been so much better spent because this person would have been well on their way to losing a couple pounds. So here's a question to ask yourself. If you knew that you would have to slow down your weight loss, so weight loss would come at a little bit slower rate than the weight loss you would have from a crash diet or a detox or, going carbless or whatever you want to call it, super low calorie couple of weeks. If you were willing to slow down your weight loss rate and that by doing that, you could have permanent weight loss forever. You could eat what you want. You could feel freedom around food for the rest of your life. You could live in the body you want to live in for the rest of your life. Would you be willing to slow down the rate of weight loss? Because really, that is what it takes for permanent weight loss. There's no way around it. And people don't like to hear it because we are so conditioned to I want it here, I want it now. But this is the point about being very realistic and truthful. And I know when I talk like this, it probably doesn't get me the thousands of clients like other programs do. But the clients I do get are the ones who are ready. they are the ones who really are willing to take on this new challenge of, can I handle just losing a half pound to 2 pounds a week? Having faith and knowing that in the long run, I'll get to keep it off for good. And along the way, as I'm losing the weight, I can actually enjoy losing the weight. Here is the thing. You absolutely can lose weight permanently while enjoying doing it. But it really does take a mind shift to where you're willing to really embrace and know that by taking a breath, by slowing things down, by having a realistic plan, that you are going to have an enjoyable time losing the weight on the way down, that you do not need to give up your favorite foods or drink. You will be able to figure out ways to get into the body composition you want, and that you want to stay there for good. I want you to think about how many times you've started a diet from an unrealistic place. You jumped into the latest fad diet. You were super motivated. This is so me. Like I used to try every new diet that came out. I was so gung-ho, just super motivated. Yes, this is it. I'm doing it this time. And you were able to stick with it for 3 days, a week, 2 weeks. And over whatever time period of time, eventually you were like, okay, this is too freaking hard. I'm done, or I'm not going to live life this way. Or maybe you were just sick of restricting so much this particular diet plan that you ended up rebelling or overeating, binging, maybe even started some habitual binging behaviors. And now, eventually a couple weeks later, you're even at a higher weight than where you first started that first diet, and the cycle just continues on. I want you to think about how much time many of us have spent doing that back and forth, the weight gain, the weight loss, the weight gain, the weight loss. And instead, if we had just started that first time with a realistic plan, how that absolutely would have changed how much time it took us to get into that body and life that we really want to be in. To lose weight permanently and for life, the key is really enjoying the process as you lose it on the way down. If you can figure out a realistic plan to lose weight where you can enjoy it as you're losing the weight, that is going to bring you successful permanent weight loss. And it'll create an amazing relationship with your body, with food, and with yourself. I really hope you found something useful from this episode. And if so, please pass it along to someone else you might feel it would benefit. As you can tell, I feel really passionate about helping people figure out how to get healthy and be in the bodies they want to be in for the rest of their lives. And sometimes sharing something like this with someone you know who might be struggling can be really, really helpful. Also, please head over to my website, and if you scroll down on almost any of the pages, scroll way down to the bottom, there's a box where you can fill in your email to subscribe to my monthly newsletter. It's on all things well-being, and every month you get my newsletter in your mailbox where I write about different topics each month. There's always a recipe included, some discount codes for companies that I work with, and the focus of the newsletter is always something on optimizing mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health. I also never give away your email address. It is safe with me. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me, for listening, and we will talk soon. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen, and get in touch with questions on all things I offer, like online courses for overeating, weight loss, goal attainment, and also my coaching and counseling services.